Multiple thousands of people die because they're unable to get an organ transplant. Dozens of people enlist for organ transplant on a daily basis. Side operation is ignoring the mourn of these people and the sorrow of their families in order to fulfill a dead man's unstated legacy that they argue to exist. We believe that it is much better for one to save lives after a death rather than to preserve organs just to be cremated at the end of the day. Our policy is simple. When you die, all of your organs are going to be donated, and the donation will be, of course, free, and the organ will be distributed based on order. First argument on justification. What is the problem in the status quo? People die because they don't have the organs that they need. For example, you might need a liver, you need a heart, or etc. But if you don't, you're gonna die eventually. There are so many people in the status quo that die because of these lack of organs, and we believe that it is a significant, urgent problem that needs to be dealt with, and we believe that side operation neglects this problem. Second, on core simple principle, then why is it justified not or not wrong to take the organ away? 3 points of analysis. First, when people die, you don't need organs. First, their organs no longer serve any function to the deceased or their family. However, these organs can mean a difference between life and death for somebody else who is dying. This is to say that when you're eventually going to be cremated or be inside a coffin for hundreds of years, it is completely justified to use your organ that you're not going to use to another person. Therefore, if a dead person does not need these organs, we believe that we will rather better give it to a person that actually needs it. Hence, it is the government's duty to take this choice and create more benefit and efficiency. For example, after you go to middle school, you might give toys to children from poor backgrounds because you might not need it, and poor children actually need it, and that's similar for organ transplant. Second, your rights as a citizen are not valid when you die. You cannot vote, for example, if you're dead. You don't have the freedom of speech after you're dead because you're not able to speak and you're not existing. So that is why you lose bodily autonomy. So your right to do everything on your own and your body is just diminished. And we believe that that is the reason why it's completely justified to donate these money without certain consent of these people.
You lie, sir.
Not accepted. Last analysis on how when you die, you lose possessions of your own stuff. This is because you lose the right and the power of a human being, meaning that you lose all the things that you have got. Second argument on how we actually save people. This argument will tell you that even if the principal justification that we have told you is not really valid, we still win in the practical, and it's more important in today's debate. By having more active organ transplants, we believe that we are able to address more people who are actually suffering with organ issues, who are dying every day, dozens of people who are enlisting in these organ donation lists, and everyone. Why is it always not enough with the opt-in system like in the status quo? We
You
believe
lie,
that the
sir. Please
organ
engage.
yes.
We can't use our organs when you're dead because your organs are also dead. How would your arguments all function when your organs are dead and you can't properly send them, properly give it to other people?
We believe that that is not true because if you're dead, it's scientifically proven that if you're dead, your organs are still functioning somewhat for like a short amount of time. So if you get these organs, you're able to transplant them to and use it as like a organ. Even if that is true, we believe that these organs could be taken out before the person's death,
It's
and
only
we
it's
believe
really
that
limited.
doesn't.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we believe that the organ donation in the status quo has a negative public perception in the status quo. People prioritize themselves even after death over the people who live in the future due to the sense of thought that this is harming yourself. People are not willing to specifically mention an opt-in generally. That is exactly why people like in the opt-in systems work out better when it comes to an organ donation after death. And we simply think that taking that a step further into an act and into an extra mile is much more better. Because an opt-in system lacks supply when it comes to an organ donation, that is why we can argue for a sense of urgency within this debate as side government. Then what are the impacts of this? We as side government save more lives at the end of the day. We give people the organs they need for their own survival, and we save millions of people by implementing this motion. On side operation, the dead person is dying, and the person who needs the organ transplant both die. So two people die. On our side, we mitigate the death of a person who is almost dying, and meaning that we just cut the death into a half, and because we save more people at the end of the day, and that is the most important thing. So proud to
Gentlemen,
propose.
honorable judge, and respectful members of the House. I do understand the noble intention behind this proposal, saving lives and increasing the number of available organs for transplant. But it is crucial that we examine this motion through the lens of individual rights, personal freedom, and cultural aspect. Now, some rebuttals. Now, I'd like to specify that there are only some types of organs that can be used after a person's death. Therefore, some of the claims made by the PM does not stand. Now, the PM has also claimed how there is a overall shortage in the global organs. While the global organ shortage is indeed a serious problem, like mandatory organ donation is not the ideal solution. Forcing people to donate their organs may lead to resentment and, in some cases, pushback against the law, which will ultimately be counterproductive. Instead, efforts should focus on increasing voluntary donations through education, awareness campaigns, incentivizing donation programs that align with personal choice. Also, the PM has also stated that there is no point of owning organs after death, but this is actually not true in the case of specific region or culture, and people also may feel violated. There's something called a right to faith and religion. Now, the toy donation analogy does not stand, which was made by the PM. Now, the proposal made by the PM was actually not a toy donation. It was stealing the toys and giving it to poor people. This is completely not the same. Now, about saving lives, the proposition argues that mandatory organ donations will save lives, but it overlooks the fact that forcing individuals to donate may cause emotional distress, especially if people feel that their bodies are being treated as property for the benefit of others. Now, then what does our world look like? It's not the status quo. It is a world with multiple systems that incentivize individuals to donate their organs, such as the tit for tat policy, which is a policy where the organ donor gets priority transplant when needed, advertisements, campaigns, etc., without any pressure. The first argument I wish to address is the violation of personal autonomy and the rights that would result from mandating organ donation globally. At the heart of this issue is the fundamental principle of personal autonomy, the right of individuals to make decisions about their own bodies. We live in societies that value individual freedoms and liberties, and this motion threatens to undermine one of the most basic of those freedoms, the right to choose what happens to our own bodies. Bodily autonomy is something innate that cannot be violated in all cases. By making organ donation mandatory, we strip people of their ability to make these decisions for themselves. This is not just about the physical act of donation. It's about the principle that individuals should have the right to control what happens to their own body, even after death. Many people might argue that organ donation is a generous and altruistic act, which it is. However, the decision to donate an organ is deeply personal. Some individuals may have fears, doubts, or moral concerns about organ donation. Moreover, a mandatory system could lead to a sense of resentment, anxiety, or helplessness, as I claimed in my rebuttal, among individuals who, for personal reasons, may not want to donate their organs. People might begin to feel as though their bodily autonomy is being taken away, which could result in social unrest or lack of trust in the healthcare system. Ultimately, this would do more harm than rather good. The second major concern I want to address is the cultural and religious objections to mandatory organ donation. Across the world, people adhere to a wide range of cultural and religious beliefs, many of which shape their views on the sanctity of body, life, and death. Organ donation may be considered acceptable in some cultures or religious groups, but in others it is seen as deeply problematic, unethical, or even sacrilegious. For example, certain religious traditions, such as those followed by Orthodox Jews, Muslims, and some Christian denominations, hold specific views about the treatment of body after death. These traditions may place great importance on burial practices or may have concerns about bodily integrity, meaning that the removal of organs posthumously can be seen as violating the sanctity of the human body. In some cultures, death is not simply viewed as an end, but as a transition to another life, and how the body is treated after the death is sacred. A mandatory a donation system could force individuals in these cultures to violate their religious or cultural beliefs, leading to significant distress and moral conflict. Now, rather than violating a person's right to bodily autonomy and religion and trampling the traditions of certain cultures, it is better to motivate organ donation through campaigns, advertisements, reward, and the tit for tat strategy. The tit for tat policy, which is carried out in many countries, including Germany, provides a priority for receiving organs and organ donors and has motivated many donations. Because of these reasons, I am so proud to oppose.
People are dying in a daily basis, and opposition tries to justify the act of murder by saying that people are emotional and people are sad. Three things I want to do in today's debate. First, some major clarification on is organ be able to use later or not. Second, some refutations. And third, the last constructive on how we are able to eliminate and regulate black market and why that is so important in today's debate. Let's start with clarification. Their main justification is that organ is also dead, so you can't use it later on. No, organ can be saved if it is harvested in a limited time. If that is the case where organ cannot be used later, they also can't support organ donation in the status quo. They also can't support things like education. It's a simply contradictory and a factually wrong material coming from opposition from the get-go of today's debate. Second question I want to ask is this justified? Because we told you that because they're talking about things like, oh, this is your bodily autonomy, oh, this is your freedom to do. We told you in James' speech that when you die, you lose the right as a human being. You can't vote, you don't have the freedom of speech. Same way, your organ has no function. It's the government's duty to take a
utilitarian approach and to make the organ to use and save people, that is a justified use of the government in the first place. But even if that's not true that we have, and we even if that's not true that this is not justified, why do we still win in today's debate? Why is life the most important thing in today's debate? Three ways we weigh it. First one, irreversibility. The right to life is a fundamental and universally accepted human right. Saving a life takes precedence over other considerations because it's irreversible. Once someone dies waiting for an organ, they cannot be brought back. Second, on tangibility and magnitude. Emotional distress is temporary, but saving a life can ensure decades of meaningful existence for someone else. They're trading off with a temporary emotion. We compare tangible suffering. A person that needs a kidney, we as a sad family, we think that first the person that needs kidney is more important in terms of magnitude and tangibility. They have to defend the world where you defend an arbitrary standard which is intangible and not big in magnitude. Third, urgency. People are dying on a daily basis. We can't wait. This is something really, really important. Then let's talk about religion. They talk about, oh, but what if there's like things like culture, or what if there's like a religious value where you can't donate your organ? Sure, but we already limit religious freedoms to save lives. Or just mandating vaccination, blood transfusion. We already have these things that already have other things that limit religious freedom in order to save people at the end of the day. We think that this motion is just an extension of that. Also, alternative approach that they gave you is education. Hey, we can also have education too. But the problem is education is not working in the status quo. If education was working in the status quo, we probably don't have people dying because of organ trading. We tell you that education is not succeeding in the status quo. That is why we need to take this hardline stance. We think that is why with this motion is actually justified. Third constructive then on how we eliminate and regulate black market. But before I'm willing to engage a POI. Okay, then I'll just move on to my third constructive on how we regulate and eliminate black market. Three analysis here. First, let's talk about the status quo. Right now, there's a very big organ shortage. Hence, there's a huge black market where organs are traded illegally. Then, why is black market bad? Three analysis. First, that organs are expensive, meaning that it is often only the rich individuals buying and poor people selling, which is just bad in the first place, as it is usually the vulnerable poor that needs the organ more. Second, organs are not safe because it is literally illegal and done behind government side. The quality and the state of the organ is very dirty and unsafe. Due to these two problems, black market of organ led to dangerous surgeries that, of course, intuitively led to the low rate of surgery success, meaning that the organs are being not used properly, even in the status quo. Then, how is this so under our case? There's so many organs under our side because we donate organs freely. That is to say that there is no need for black market to exist. That is to say that all those problems we talked about, organs of the black market, such as being expensive, only poor people selling and rich people getting, or not being safe, hence leading to low succeeding rate of surgery, these problems don't exist under our side. That is a really big benefit that you have to count. They have to defend the world. They have to defend a world where this education system is not happening in the first place, but second, where black market is the key source of organs and people are dying because of black market, that is the world that opposition has to defend in. We think we save more people, never win more problems.
You must choose between freedom and force. In order for government to win this debate, they need to prove how individuals will be convinced to follow their policy and how public will trust the policy, to trust the government in today's debate. I think there are enough reasons proposed by Chunu as to how we not only protect citizens' autonomy, but also are able to help religious groups and marginal groups. A lot of religious groups value their own organs, and what government does is further exacerbating the rights or beliefs of individuals. This debate then comes down to two burdens that government needs to point out. First of all, they need to prove how the public will have public trust when they're taking away their organs by force. But second of all, prove how they will value marginal groups also. Since we protect all the citizens in the House, we already win this debate by a clear margin. I'm going to do three things in my speech. First of all, some clarifications. Second of all, some rebuttals. Last but not least, our team's last constructive arguments. I want to make it first clear about the tit for tat policy that we will impose in a lot of countries that DPM didn't engage on. Tit for tat policy basically means that if you donate the proportion of your organ, you or your family will be in the first priority to receive an organ when you're in an emergency situation. This is not forcing, but further welcoming people to donating their organ, and it's much more better than forcing in comparison, because they're basically imposing a policy that violates the rights of our citizens. That is why our world is really comparatively better than government's policy. We already win this debate because none of government speakers are able to prove how that policy will outweigh ours, because we have enough of evidence to prove the success criteria, such as Germany, which pushes this concept/policy and succeeded in saving a lot of individuals. Therefore, with this comparison, we're able to stand this motion still. Second of all, but then moving on to some rebuttals. When you die, organs can't be used anymore because the organ cells are also dead in your body. It's actually unavailable for government then to claim and say that they will only use dead organs. Yes, it's possible for individuals to do surgeries when you do it quickly, but it's almost impossible at the end of the day. Two reasons why. First of all, the golden time is really short, which makes it really difficult for doctors to do organ transplant in such a limited time. If that was possible, we would already impose that in status quo. Why not do it? Because it's almost impossible. Second of all, the organs that could be used is very limited. I said chat POIs. So even if they have golden time, it doesn't mean that the majority of citizens will be able to receive the cure or the transplant in the first place. That's why that is why I told you that it's impossible, because that they need to go through these difficult standards which are extremely ineffective at the end of the day. Then the only way for government's point to function is to prove they need to force individuals who are alive to do organ donation, which contradicts PM's full first and second argument, because they told you there's no because their point of functions under fiat, the individuals are dead and they lost their human rights. But then since we're supporting and only taking a proportion of their organ citizens still have their right under our side, and therefore Tom can just reframe our whole setting. But second of all, but last but not least, we solve the black market issues better because we also impose a policy that actively benefits organ donators. Then this also goes down to the problem between force and support. Support is much more better than force, and we solve this problem better of black markets problems better. Then moving on to our final argument as to how this will lead to lack of public support. Panel, it's a policy and a movement that justifies violating human rights and violating one's beliefs. If we realistically think, I don't think majority of citizens will have trust in this policy, because no one would like to follow a policy that violates their freedom. That is why we propose a clear-cut model and a counter policy that could better support organ donation, but at the same time a policy that prevents violating the rights of our citizens. Therefore, if we logically think and scope this debate as a wider point, we say that it's more than clear-cut justified for us to follow our side as a comparison. But then what is the impact here? I think the impact here is really, really clear. The impact here is that a policy that can receive positive attention, and a policy that could benefit a small proportion is often a policy that proposes the structural failures of a state. The reason to that is that even if we consider that it might benefit citizens in the long run, we don't know how our policy is different from their side's policy from this point of the debate. If we actively open campaigns and impose the tip or tap policy that Chuda already mentioned multiple times, individuals will also earn a huge benefit in the long run. But then the difference is that individuals aren't competitive, just promoting, not forcing. And I already confirmed why promoting is better than forcing. That is why, in conclusion, we succeeded in gaining public trust, and proved by losing freedom loses public trust, and why losing public trust is a very big harm at the end of the day. And thus it's very
religious autonomy is violated to a certain extent in the status quo when it comes to medical issues. Side opposition has to defend the world where they oppose vaccination and stuff like that, since they want to empower religious autonomy so much, right? Proud to propose. Moving on to the two main clashes in this debate. First of all, why is this justified? We bring upon a tangible benefit of saving more people at the end of the day. I think this justifies defying the will of a dead person's family. Why does side opposition's counterfactual unable to work at the very end of the day? We believe that side opposition's voluntary action concedes to two main flaws: status quo and narrative. Side opposition has to explain why there is a severe shortage of organ donation in the status quo when they fiat that they can solve organ donation problems by letting people voluntarily opt in. B, as James has already explained, opt-in systems will not help at all at any times, especially with a narrative that considers organ donation as a violation of autonomy rather than government's duty, or even a type of donation. This is a strategic flaw that side opposition concedes to. We don't understand how their alternatives or how their mechanisms will work at all, because they concede to this narrative that organ donation is not a donation but a violation to autonomy. We think this is going to rather lead to more backlashes under side opposition. Side opposition continuously complains about bodily autonomy. When you die, you lose the right as a human being. I think this was quite clear from our two previous speeches. You can't vote. You can't have the freedom to speech. Same way, your organ has no function. Government's duty is to take a utilitarian approach to your properties, to your organs. If this is argued false in opposition speech, side opposition has to defend a stance where they go against stuff like taxation of your property after death before you transfer it to your family. Side opposition states how organ is dead, so you can't use it. Organ is dead. Yes, organ can be dead, but if you harvest it in a certain amount of time, you can save it. It's just ridiculous how side opposition tries to avoid and run away from the debate of confronting our benefits by presenting us factually false medical information in this debate without expertise, right? In utilitarian means, at the end of the debate, we think that we clearly take this debate home, and saving more lives at the end of the day is a prerequisite and justification towards most of our policy. We think this is why opposition, because they save less lives, because they trade off off because they're willing to trade off the well-being of multiple thousands of people for the temporary emotions of families of a dead man. We think that is why we take a utilitarian appendix this debate. Before I move on, I would like to take a POI. Assuming there's none, I would like to move on to the second clash, where then how do we save more people and how is it that more important than the principle? So we already tell you that we also bring upon practical benefits such as elimination of black market. We think this as a unique benefit we take home in this debate whatsoever. Side opposition has to debate under conceding that there are black markets and unauthorized medical actions will happen more often under their world, and we get actually no engagement from side opposition about how they have to concede to the harm of having black markets, because they tell us, oh, we support organ donation, but because they tell us, oh, we support organ donation, but then this contradicts their logic, because their logic seems to be that most people do not want to donate organs because it's their property for a religious reason. Then why would these stubborn people suddenly donate under your side of the world? We think they have no mechanism under how this works. That's just uncharitable. How they try to fiat a benefit without a mechanization. It's more effective when you force it and then actually change the perception of the public with certain educational programs. We think there's no response, because there's no response to a black market, and because changing perception after enforcing a policy is much more effective to saving more lives at the end of the day. In utilitarian means, we are proud to propose we take this both clashes home.
The proposition asserting faulty logic because the premise is wrong. When people die completely, most of their organs are not possible to use. See, this is true. We clearly wish to state because we prove why it's simply unjustified to force citizens to donate their organs. So I have two clashes proving why our team clearly wishes this debate. So moving on to my first clash, which will be, is it justified to force people for organ donation? So I like to have a response to the proposition's explanation about how it justifies the forcing people. So firstly, the core premise is false, because when a person dies, most of the organs except only a few are unable to be used. Even if they take the organ really fast, that is not actually possible. If they're talking about brain death, it's really rare case which is not going to be effective even compared to our side's alternative. And still, we ignore this fact that the information is false. It's never justified for the government to take away the core right that democracy supports and democracy upholds, and people's rights are taken away in order to save lives. It is still unjustified, because it should not be the government's role to limit people's freedom without a justified reason. And lastly, they talk about the irreversible damage of death, but the people being taken away their freedom and people being taken away their organs through surgery would be irreversible also. No, thank you. And we pushed the logic bodily autonomy, and this is an important right of all individuals, and they have as a human being, allowing them to decide and control in a way that he or she thinks is good for them. And this freedom should be not limited unless there's a clear justified reason. And mandatory organ donation take away this, because taking away organs without
Point.
consent, even after death, counts as no thank you damage and is defined as a criminal law. How is forcibly taking away organs different from the dismemberment? Thus, even if you fail to save others from death, violating rights and committing crimes committing crimes cannot be justified. And also to have a rebuttal to the government claims. No, thank you. I said POI to chat, please. The government's weak claims about how we cannot persuade stubborn religious people, since when forcing people able to change perception, take away their best case scenario and assumes that we cannot persuade some people forcibly, taking away organs cannot be justified in all cases. So if you weigh those explanations, the proposition needs to prove how organ donation is included in instances when it's justified to take away freedom of citizens. Did all the citizens committed some crime that is illegal, like prisoners? No. Emergency cases like war? No. Are individuals unable to make rational decisions? No. Therefore, the government should not take away the rights of citizens without a justifiable reason. And this this clash is a winning point for our team, because if government is unjustifiably taking away rights of citizens, and the government didn't prove that it should not be done, no matter what the benefit it gained. And moving on to my second clash, which will be effectiveness of the policy. So we push the alternative mechanisms about how also we can increase the organ supply through more active organ donation. So we push things like tit for tat policy and also increasing promotion and campaign for the organ donation. So why would it be effective? Firstly, citizens would have a clear incentive by alternative like tit for tat policy that we have been talking about. So tit for tat policies give an incentive to citizens because they know they're going to have something gained and actually it will help their family or themselves in the future. And secondly, it will lead to a lot of people donating their organ. And organ donating is actually being a moral person. And this kind of people think this way. When people think this way, this can be people think this way. Some organ donation be some kind of trend, and people think this is being doing this as a moral person. It becomes more easy for people to donate this. And this can be achieved through a lot of promotion and campaigns that we were pushing. And the propositions like policy cannot work because they cannot achieve anything when they're pushing false information because when people die, most of the organs die too, as I explained. And it is almost impossible to donate it someone. Not so
In
therefore
order for your role to function, you need to go through strict standards in your debate. First of all, doctors need to move really fast in order to do these organ transplants, which makes it really difficult. If it were to be possible, we will already impose that in status quo. The reason those transplants are really unlikely is because of the fact that they're really, really difficult because it dies out in a few hours. But second of all, if they die, the temporarily alive organs only take a small proportion at the end of the day, which makes it almost impossible for individuals to receive transplants because of the limited amount of organs they could use even in the best case scenario. They never engage until this point of the debate, and Whip just ignores our whole speeches even though I responded to every point that your side claimed. So I want to clarify that once more and prove why we bring this debate home. And also, that is why it's the most likely for government to just force alive citizens to do organ transplants under their side. But that's just very problematic because that doesn't justify human rights and that just contradicts your whole case. First, I want to touch on the black market point. We solve black market issues better because we also impose a policy that actively benefits organ donators. So rather than using your time searching up in black markets, you first donate your organ for safety, and then later on, if organs are needed for you in emergency, government puts you in first priority. This is like life insurance, and government is debating under emotion where they need to prove why every life insurance is ineffective if they deny this policy. As we create a good life insurance and also create a role where we promote organ donation, we say it's rather better than forcing, and that is why we win over this point. Also, I don't think they seem to understand our benefits, so we would like to show our incentive as to why this is true. But I want to make it crystal clear about the tit for tat policy. We will impose in a lot of countries. Tit for tat policy basically means that if you donate your proportion of your organ, you or your family will be in the first priority to receive the organ when you are in an emergency situation. This is not forcing, but rather welcoming people to donate their organs, and this is much more better than forcing in comparison because they're basically imposing a policy that violates the rights of the citizens. This debate comes down to a major clash as to which side violates if it's better to if it's better to promote a policy is it better to promote or is it better to force? I think more than our speakers our speakers did more than a good job telling you as to why it's better to promote but not force. Therefore, whatever gov reply comes out, it's a clear
Debate
opt-out.
101, you can't win a debate by going against the reality. If it is true that there's a medical impossibility of making a drug and transplanting to someone, like making an organ transplant to someone else, then how is the status quo of organ donation working in the first place? That is something that they have to defend in the status quo. They never did. They came up with this medical misinformation. We win. Two things before anything. First, on the medical possibility, they rely on one sentence to rebut to all of our point, which is that this is impossible. Don't let Nayo fool you with this misinformation that it is medically impossible to implement this policy because organ is dead. He kept told us that there's a very short golden time and we can't implement this. Note that this is factually not true. The golden time is not as short, and when you die, they're usually doctors. So yeah, note that this is just factually not true. If this was the case, how are we doing the organ donation in the status quo in the first place? They're just coming up with this really, really wrong statement from the get-go of today's debate. Second, on the alternative, support is better than force. Sure, but that is the only way the support actually works. The same people that refuse to donate organs because of like religion or bodily autonomy or like they're stubborn have actually no incentive to donate just because they get minor support or education. That is an under-characterization of my opposition. Education is inefficient. This is the last resort that we want to take. With that said, let's talk about the first issue on medical benefit. With with one dead body, you can save so many people. The liver, the heart, and the kidney will save people. Opposition neglects this opportunity and leaves these people to die. This is also because these people are dying on a daily basis. So even if you assume that best case scenario and say that, oh, education will work, oh, the support will actually work, these things take time, but these things are urgent, meaning that we need immediate address, but they going for a long-term, sustainable, and stable and gradual method. But these things, during this golden time, people are dying on a daily basis. These people, opposition has failed to protect the people. Second, on the justification, meaning that we have to justify this act. We already told you so many things, such as no right when you're dead, no possession, and all those things. But even if this is not true, we tell you that we're able to save people, and utilitarian mechanism is the most important thing in today's debate. Our worst case is where we violate this dead man's non-existent right and make the family sad. When we save so many people, opposition neglects this opportunity to save people, but rather objects to this motion because people are sad. We think that is simply unjust.